I'm Brooks Fuller with Common Cause North Carolina. Here's 5 things you need to know about this week in North Carolina politics.
First, you need to know that the North Carolina General Assembly may finally pass a budget this week. After more than 2.5 years since the last comprehensive spending plan, Republican leadership in the House and Senate announced that they had reached a deal and aimed to vote on the budget ahead of the July 4th holiday. Preliminary documents and reports suggest that the budget is going to include a pay raise plan for teachers and state employees, income tax cuts, and money for a new children's hospital in Apex. What lawmakers have not said, however, is what else might be lurking in the final budget. The last time the General Assembly passed a full budget, Republican leadership included provisions in the budget that decimated transparency at the legislature and in the redistricting process. Advocates will be on the lookout for similar attempts this time around. With lawmakers poised to turn their full attention to finalizing the budget this week, the fate of other legislation such as major changes in election law could be up in the air. The next thing you need to know is the latest on House Bill 958. 2 weeks ago, House Republicans unveiled an updated, more than 30-page version of the bill that would make sweeping changes to election laws. House Bill 958 would give the state auditor new powers to conduct audits of county boards of election. It would expand challenge procedures for ballots cast during early voting, and it would allow the state board to initiate ballot challenges based on unreliable records of citizenship in federal systems like the SAVE database. And by the way, a federal judge recently held that the expanded SAVE system violates federal privacy law, so this anti-voter bill does serious harm still. There are a few positive provisions, however. The bill would modestly extend the deadline for counting provisional and absentee ballots after Election Day from 3 business days to 5, and would increase compensation for county boards of election members. While the bill has undergone significant revision through bipartisan negotiations, voting rights groups like Common Cause remain concerned that the practical administrative challenges of the bill remain too serious to make this a good piece of legislation, and the voter roll maintenance and challenge procedures provisions threaten to disenfranchise many thousands of voters in the state. House Bill 958 is still a bad deal for North Carolina. The bill could go on the floor as early as this week, but its passage remains in doubt, especially as several key votes appear in doubt. Republican Tricia Cotham, who voted no on the bill in committee, and lame duck Democrat Shelley Willingham and unaffiliated Representative Carla Cunningham signaled serious concerns about the bill. There's still time for you to act to defeat this anti-voter bill. Go to ccnc.me/stop958 to learn more. And speaking of Representatives Willingham and Cunningham, you should know that they were in the news more than once last week. Both legislators were nowhere to be found as Republicans successfully overrode Governor Josh Stein's vetoes of anti-DEI and ICE cooperation laws passed last year. The anti-DEI laws would ban all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in schools and across the state government. And the ICE cooperation law requires state and local law enforcement agencies to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, and Customs and Border Protection officials in controversial deployments like the one that we saw in the Triangle last year and in the Charlotte metro region. Willingham and Cunningham's absence meant that the Republicans could clear the 60% or 3/5 threshold that they needed to override the vetoes. And with these two members absent, the Republicans could successfully check that part of their agenda off the list for this legislative session. The next thing you should know is that counties across the state are putting the finishing touches on early voting plans this month. Final plans are due to the state board on July 24th, so the next few weeks are going to be full of activity at the county boards. And we've seen no shortage of controversy so far. In what promises to be a pivotal and high turnout election season, some communities have seen their county boards pass majority plans that would cut early voting sites from college campuses or make dramatic cuts to early voting options that have traditionally served all voters in rural counties that often lack substantial early voting options. Advocates are raising concerns of partisan influence over these decisions. Public records revealed that staff from the Office of the State Auditor urged county board members to cut the Western Carolina University site in Jackson County and called for adding a site in Midland, a majority conservative town in Cabarrus County. In Rowan, board member John Leatherman essentially abdicated the county's responsibility, saying that the state would implement whatever plan that they wanted. Reports also surfaced that the Columbus County Board was considering a plan to go from 5 early voting sites to as few as 1 countywide. But in response, Columbus County residents packed the meetings of the Elections Board and spoke against the proposed cuts. And thanks to community members showing up and speaking out, the Columbus County Board of Elections reversed course and has put forward 2 possible plans with no fewer than 4 early voting sites, submitting those plans to the State Board of Elections to make a final decision. The concerns about removing early voting sites come as all 100 county boards switched their partisan majorities from Democrat to Republican after Senate Bill 382 transferred county board appointment powers from the governor to the state auditor. Early voting decisions are still being discussed in many counties around the state, and you can learn how to get involved in your county by checking out our early voting advocacy toolkit at ccnc.me/2026toolkit. And now for a fifth thing you should know. It's time to head to Washington, D.C. and check in on Senator Tom Tillis, who is retiring at the end of this term. In his final months in office, Senator Tillis' votes could be critical to President Donald Trump's political agenda and any political appointees that may require Senate approval. Currently, Tillis is considering whether to support the permanent confirmation of Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, President Trump's former personal attorney and his choice for Attorney General after firing Pam Bondi in April. Blanche's confirmation hearings are scheduled for mid-July and promise to highlight several controversies surrounding the independence of the Justice Department. Blanche has failed to release information contained in the Epstein files, which a federal judge recently said is in violation of the bipartisan Epstein Act. Blanche was also behind the creation of a nearly $1.8 billion slush fund created to compensate individuals who the Trump administration claims were targeted by the federal government. When asked whether this fund could be used to pay out January 6th rioters convicted of violent crimes at the Capitol, Blanche refused to say whether the individuals involved in the insurrection would be ineligible for these big payouts. While the Justice Department has walked back plans for the slush fund, Blanche's involvement in the secret deal that created it and his involvement in a settlement that could immunize the president, his family, and his associates against audits and criminal prosecution in the future raise serious doubts about his ability to run the department fairly. Common Cause North Carolina is calling on our members to contact Senator Tillis and urge him to vote no on Blanche. You can also sign our petition at ccnc.me/rejectblanche.
Those are 5 things you need to know about this week in North Carolina politics. Join us anytime at commoncausenc.org.